Alrighty. Oh my gosh, it is almost that time already. The Super Bowl I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about because it's such a huge game. Huge game for me personally. Huge game for us at Hawaii sports fans. And a huge game if you are a fan of the Chiefs. Or of the Buccaneers as well. Do we have Buccaneer fans? How many Buccaneer fans are out there? I know we got a few. That, maybe Brady converts, maybe Gronk converts. I don't know. Maybe people that really love Gronk might become Buccaneer fans or fans of Mike Evans. Or they got a lot of good players at the Buccaneers. That's a good team over there. And Tom Brady, exceptional story. And we're going to talk about that, the big game, the Super Bowl. I'm going to talk about the Super Bowl tour that I am planning on putting out. And it's going to be very exclusive. And it's going to be three things that I tell people with, especially the Super Bowl. It's safe, number one, with me. It's easy, number two, and it's fun. So it's all three of those elements. And I'll add very affordable. And I think I've done a good job of making sure the people I've brought have had really great value, and I know all the spots. So I'm going to talk about what it's like to go to the Super Bowl with Hawaii sports fans. And if you're planning on going by yourself, I'll drop a lot of nuggets of knowledge as well, so you can maybe take a crack at it yourself. It's a very, very, very dangerous market out there, but it is one that is doable if one goes by oneself. But just know that going with a group is safe, and are going with a company that's been there before, and there are many. So Hawaii sports fans is just a certain way of doing things. I don't feel like I have any competitors. I don't feel like I compete with anyone when it comes to our tours or major tour, big companies. Like, it's just a different experience, and the Super Bowl is one of those things where it's just a different experience. And with Hawaii sports fans, our groups are small enough so that I can take us to different places because I'm there too. And how fun it is to have me with you all the time. You can just tell me, like, pipe it down a little bit, or just, like, I don't know, stop talking for an hour or so, because I can get going a little bit. But I just love sharing all these experiences with people, and the Super Bowl is one of the most fun. So I'm going to talk about that and what to expect, especially this year. It's an unprecedented year for the Super Bowl. The host team playing in the game. COVID, obviously, we're in a pandemic, so what that's like, and a huge matchup between Mahomes and Brady. And finally, I'm also going to talk about another amazing weekend in Kansas City. You saw last week on the show, I talked about the AFC divisional and seeing the Browns and the Chiefs. And the Chiefs ran a very gutsy, the NFL calls today, released on social media, video of the gutsiest playoff calls in NFL history. And that call, Henny to Cheetah on 4th and inches. I was there on the 50 looking at that very play, thinking they weren't going to run a play, thinking they're just going to let the other team maybe draw them off sides. No, he goes for it. Andy Reid, he goes for it, and the Chiefs get the first down and win and advance to the AFC Championship. And last week I got to see them play the Bills, and I was really nervous about the game. And the Bills are a great team. Josh Allen, sorry, is a good player. And we talk about Jared Allen too, I guess. He's a great player. But Josh Allen, a great player. And, Patrick Mahomes and crew. And I was wearing my Travis Kelce jersey. And the Chiefs made it to another Super Bowl. And a great game against the Bills. But a rivalry, I think, that will be around for a while. I think Bills and Chiefs going for it on the AFC. Just smelling my scarf just takes me back to Kansas City, Missouri. And that's one part of all of these experiences, and all these little artifacts that I have around me. And sometimes you should wash things. I will say some things need to be washed, but some things you can just be like, I like the scent of this smoky fire on the side of the road in Kansas City, Missouri. And that was kind of cool, part of a tailgate. So that's kind of like the christening of this scarf. But it was a great game, and to be there was amazing. So I'm going to talk about that. But those gutsiest calls, something cool, and I posted this on my personal social media. Something that's really cool is that in that video that the NFL posted about the 5 gutsiest plays in NFL playoff history, and it was like 10 plays, I believe, 12 plays. Anyways, the first 5, which is in chronological order. So put it that way. I don't know if they ranked them, but they were the last 5. So spanning from now till the start of the playoffs. The 5 gutsiest play calls. The first one was that Henny to Cheetah I talked about, the Kansas City and the Browns, 4th and inches. The second one was the... Hold on, I have to go back to my post. I'm getting so excited that I have to think about it. The second one was the Super Bowl, Philly. Who's going to forget Philly? I was there in Minnesota, don't you know? And I was there, don't you? Okay. Anyways, Minnesota was like -20 outside. It was so cold. They make you walk a perimeter. After you get to the initial part of the Super Bowl, like check your tickets, you got to walk through another perimeter to get like closer to the game. And it was like freezing. Like legit freezing. Of course, inside the building it was warm, but you know I'm always cold. So Kansas City was very cold as well. But Minnesota, oh wow, Minnesota. Anyways, Philly. Nick Foles catching. Yes, Nick Foles quarterback. What a story there. Of course, Nick Foles taking over for Carson Wentz and going off, riding off to the sunset as a Super Bowl MVP, starting off the season as backup quarterback, but. A play nobody will ever forget. A toss back and a reverse and a throw to Foles in the end zone. Philly. I was there for that one too. So I was there for the first and the second. Let's go for 3. Well, the third was Super Bowl 49, and that's when the Patriots intercepted away a sure Super Bowl because everybody in the whole building knew that the ball was going to beast mode, right? I don't know. Pete Carroll, I guess, didn't hear the coconut wireless because everybody was like, oh my gosh, Beast Mode's definitely going to get it. We just saw an amazing catch right before that, which, I mean, like the Seahawks' chances, like if you look at that ESPN graphic, was probably like really low, like 2%, probably all the way up after that catch and getting to the goal line to like 90% or something. Like it'd be interesting to go back and see that. But, of course, you remember Malcolm's interception on Russell Wilson and instead the Patriots win the Super Bowl. I was sitting in the Patriots family section. I was our first Super Bowl with Hawaii sports fans, so that's number 3. Oh my gosh, I was at the first 3 that they showed in the video. I was like, oh my gosh, 3, that's pretty crazy. What's number 4? Oh, could it be the NFC Championship 2014 when I was sitting in the Hawks Nest between the Seattle and Green Bay game? Crazy. That was the play. The play that they showed in that game, the gutsy play, was that throw to the tackle eligible when Seattle was down. It was a fake field goal. That was a really cool play. But there were so many crazy. I mean, Seattle just had it last year. So Seahawks fans, like, they know what it's like, and I'm feeling that as a Chiefs fan now. They know what it's like to just have stuff go your way. Like, I really don't want what happened in 49 ever to happen to the Chiefs. Please, that would be devastating. No offense. But at the same time, it was so cool to be in that stadium. It doesn't matter. Like I talk about this MLS, right? Soccer, it's kind of hard to tell MLS, but if you know about Zlatan, he's one of the best soccer players in the whole wide world, and he came to LA and he played the Galaxy, and I was there for LAFC. And Zlatan came in and just like dominated. Like literally, they got him that week, the Galaxy, just to play us, their rival. And then he came in, and it's the craziest game ever. And I mean, it was like super, super heart wrenching for me, but it was crazy to be there. I was like, whoa, I was there for that. That's going to be one of the best games ever in the history of MLS. So, dang, 4 for 4. What could the next one be? Oh. The NFC Championship the year before, and that was a crazy game as well. That's when Colin Kaepernick and the Niners came in to see Russell Wilson, and the Legion of Boom was back there. Cam Chancellor, I like Cam Chancellor. He was my favorite out of them. I mean, I like Richard Sherman, but I like what Richard Sherman stands for and everything. He's kind of annoying sometimes, but I'm kind of annoying sometimes, probably too. So, but I like Cam Chancellor. He was cool. Anyways, that game was pretty intense too, and that was another big balls Pete. That's what they called him at USC. When I went to the Rose Bowl in 2009, yes, I went to the Rose Bowl then. Shout out to Barry Markowitz, who probably won't you know, I still love you, Barry, even though I've talked to him forever. But, you know, Barry and I got to go to, I sat next to him at the Rose Bowl, and his son was on USC. It was so cool. And seeing Penn State play, and Mark Sanchez was a quarterback. And Clay Matthews was one of the, and the kind, Kaluka Mayava as well. So it was a cool year, but I don't know how I got sidetracked. Oh, yeah. I actually don't even know how I got sidetracked to that. So before I get to any other things, Paul Honda, I did talk to him earlier today. And Paul Honda, he is a very busy guy for the Honolulu Star Advertiser. You see him covering, like, even Wahine basketball. I mean, he can cover anything. He's amazingly brilliant, and he's quick. And he loves his job, and he loves sports, and he loves it on a level that is personal to him as well, like it is to me. And I love how he is a coach as well and loves to give back to the kids. And Paul is really passionate about kids playing, and as we all are, right? A lot of us grew up around the game, and we grew up around you know, the courts, and that was how we spent our free time. So Paul is, you know, a part of this free. He was actually trying to report on the city council meeting, which was going to pass a resolution that council member Tupola and Chad Owens Foundation were pushing in terms of standards by which they could go forward and, you know, play that game. Standard by which that they could sorry, checking my audio there. Standards by which they could play games, because kids are not, you know, actively being outdoors and being around their friends and staying active. A lot of kids, and you know, we want to do it safe. Everybody wants to play, but it needs to be done safely. And this initiative, and Paul is very passionate about this as well. And he's passionate about doing it the right way by CDC standards and wearing a mask. And he even works in small pods still. He talks about the small pods are legal. The 5, you can keep them small to what's legal in the tier, but enforce mask wearing and doing things like that. Really being strict about that. And if you gotta, he says, talks about, like, you know, you'll hear him, coach, if I gotta breathe or something, or I gotta take a deep breath. You know, take a step to the side and take a breath. Remove your mask for an instant. Get back in there. For a lot of us that are still managing to find gyms, strict gymnasiums, or the stricter ones, will make you wear your mask the whole time. So you get used to it. It makes your heart rate better. You know, strengthens your heart, your cardiovascular system. So wear a mask. And definitely when you're in close quarters with anybody. I mean, especially people you don't know that well. And the CDC recommends, like, no longer than like 15 minutes around these people. So of course, in passing, you know, it's like at the stadium, for example, you know, we were always distanced when I was in Kansas City, and you are never, you know, you know, never to be in close quarters around other people. And if you are standing in line, going to the bathroom, you're always wearing your mask, you know, and that's just a part of it. And that's what keeps things safe. And that's how we can move forward. And especially people getting vaccinated as well. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Paul, and we'll talk about, and you'll hear what Paul has to say. So basically, this resolution is to help to kickstart, right, to spark the return to sports for the youth and high schools, I'm assuming, as well.
Yeah, and you know, I figured, from what I understood, since the lockdown began in March last year, there was nothing going on. Then slowly, you might have heard some stuff too from family and relatives that there were leagues going on.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes. So, like, I heard there was a basketball league at one of the church gyms for the younger kids. That came and went real quick, but they did finish their season. Now I'm hearing that there was a baseball league on Oahu that went on for 5 weeks, and the kids got in 10 games, and then they got shut down.
Wow.
So, you know, but the thing is, the parents are educated enough, especially in Hawaii. Like,
yeah.
I'd say like 98% of people are wearing masks.
Yeah.
except when you're in the car or
of course,
people far away. And if this passes and we get to a point where we can have youth sports and maybe high school sports by March, people would respect the protocols because they're used to protecting the protocols. So where you are in California, there's a number of people that won't wear masks. So that doesn't help, right? I mean, I don't know if they have evidence that it's led to this spike. Same thing in Arizona, Texas, all along the South, Alabama. The numbers are really high per, like, you know, when you look at the rates, right?
Yeah.
And over here in Hawaii, we don't have a problem wearing masks for the most part. So protocols will be not confusing to people. People will obey them. They'll have the kids practice protocols the best they can.
For sure.
It's not, you know, I think the high school leagues and the DOE, they're going for 0% risk, which is admirable. But it's been 10 months now.
Yeah.
And 45 states, 35 have played in the fall, and another 10 are playing in the winter or planning to play in the spring. Now, it's not a guarantee that they're going to do it, but they're at least trying. They're making the effort, and it's safer here to do it. That's the thing. It's not like, oh, you know, we've had such low rate. I mean, Mayor Blangiardi, you know, on his Twitter said today we had like 61 or 64 new cases. So the trend is going down. We're under 100 cases on the 7-day moving average. But it feels like the state and the DOE are going for like zero, like going for a no-hitter.
Yeah, that's going to be a while. That's going to be a while they do that.
Yeah, and we would all love no-hitters every single day, but let's just go for a shutout. Let's test this out. Let's see if the coaches can do it, and the coaches will do a great job.
So what are the main protocols? So we're talking about wearing masks 100% of the time. Kids on the field in sports. Is that what's in the protocol?
And so, like, for pods of 5, right? That's within the tier requirement. You don't have 10 people bunched together. You have like groups of 5 pods.
Okay.
And like in ILAs are planning to play football. People like Chad Owens and other coaches, they've had their groups training, and they try to keep them in groups of 5, right? Not a whole bunch of guys together. And that's how they train anyway. They're not going to have like 40 guys normally. I do have a longing, a longing for a lot of the prominent coaches who train these guys every day, year round, or once a week at least, to have their guys wear masks. Because, like Chad said, it's not just for the optics, all right? You're face to face with a guy banging and blocking and everything. You know, the transmission is real, you know? So if you wear a mask, it's hot, can't breathe. What happens is if you run out of breath, coach, that's a great walk away 5 steps, pull it down, take some deep breaths, move in the back of the line, and just keep rotating. It's a different world. It's not comfortable, but
no, it's not. It's not, but you can do it. The kids can do it, and it's just adults who complain. I mean, I work out. There's a few gyms in LA, like you said, things operating. I mean, they're operating in wide open spaces, but obviously the gym that I go to is a corporate gym, which you imagine which one it is, but they moved everything outside. It's freezing cold. It's in the 50s in LA. I left Kansas City where I was in the 30s, and it didn't get much cooler and much warmer in California. But you have to wear a mask all the time. Even doing, going all out and sprinting, or doing when I do cardio, I can't take it off. I mean, it's just the way it is. But I think the kids will adjust because they're not like the pros. And like we saw this year in the pros, in the NFL at least, they were able to successfully play every single game this year, which is really incredible. But you and I, we got to banter a lot this year, at least in the beginning of the season, and talk about this amazing season. And now we are down to 2 teams. Obviously, one of them, you may see them in the frame that I am within. But just talk about the major moments you think in the NFL this year that brought us to this point, and what are some of your major storylines of the NFL season this year?
I think the NFL learned a lot from the NBA, right? The NBA was in a bubble, and that got rolling quickly after Rudy Gobert tested positive, right? And he tested positive, I think, within 24 hours after joking about it, touching all the reporters' microphones, reading all over his teammates and saying, "Oh, I'm not sick. You won't get."
Yeah, surprising a European would do something like that. Honestly,
well, France actually, from what I understand, France used to be strongly pro-vaccination, and then HIV came along, and everybody got tests, and then everything turned around because they realized that it's not really going to help. In that situation, it wasn't about the vaccination.
Yeah, that's a stretch to compare HIV to coronavirus.
Yeah. Well,
it's a little bit harder to transmit HIV than coronavirus.
Well, the idea of getting vaccinated for France in 1990 and beyond that, it went opposite because they're like, oh, so we got all these shots for nothing, But they found out that it didn't have a big effect. It was more something else that had to do with transmission. So Rudy probably grew up in an environment where people are like, set vaccinations, they don't know what they're doing. So he's coming here, he jokes around, and then within 24 hours, he regrets it, right? And Donovan Mitchell's upset because he tested positive too. And I think the NFL learned from that. But the way they went through the season without bubbling at all, except for like, you got it, Wayne, or you got to quarantine, or your wife has to quarantine, all this stuff. That was like a crazy, crazy, mad experiment. And it appears that nobody has perished because of that, right? They took a big risk because of billions of dollars. And it's not to say that they're being greedy, because a lot of jobs, people rely on the NFL, whether they work in the concession stand or an executive job or they're a secretary in the office. But that, in a way, is like is something that the rest of our society can look at and say, okay, this is how they did it. Let's see if it works for us. So, everything for me ties back to high school because that's what I cover. So when people say, oh, we need to be face-to-face in school before we actually have drama club or math club or whatever, for me, it's like, well, the kids that I coach, 3 of them, 2 of them, 8 of them, whatever number we have, we mask up, we sanitize, we do everything right. And so far, so good. Thank God.
Yeah.
But I think coaches, whether it's the NFL, college, high school, youth, if coaches are on it and people trust the coaches, then it can be done. And the NFL found that, we're professionals. We're going to kick this thing's butt. We're going to make sure that we contain it and we move forward. And by doing that, they actually had a season. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers got screwed over a couple times by some inconsistent decisions by the NFL brass. But they did get through it. To me, that's the one thing about this NFL season. They actually got through. I mean, fantasy football guys like you and me, we like, please have a season, but don't nobody die. Please.
Yeah, of course.
Don't let anybody die. And they got through. It was amazing.
So, I mean, being that we got through the season, we saw some major, we talked a lot about Dak Prescott, and I think the amazing season he had at the beginning, and he went down. And then that kind of the Cowboys' chances went down with them, and especially in a year when the NFC East was terrible. But in the end, the Buccaneers went out and beat the Packers who lose a second consecutive NFC championship. I know the big storyline for me there with the Packers started with the draft. I mean, if you saw Hawaii Sports Fans, we covered the entire draft. I spoke for 4 hours and 12 minutes straight. And I was shocked when Jordan Love got drafted because I didn't see Aaron Rodgers this being his last year. And they were really one piece away from making the Super Bowl, and it came back to haunt them. So, I mean, when you look at this Packers squad in the NFC Championship game and who is representing the NFC, and that's the Tampa, I mean, what are the major storylines for you there?
There's a lot of fans of Green Bay right now in Wisconsin who are wondering, like, what did Rodgers, what was he trying to say on Sunday, right, after the game? And then he backtracked on it, or he didn't backtrack, but he just clarified what he said on Monday, that he's not looking to move, but the one absolute about the NFL is that there are no absolutes.
Of course.
So by Green Bay not drafting 1 or 2, elite receivers, not necessarily like A+, 97 level, but a couple of young guys. I don't know. It's just bizarre to me because he proved that he didn't need those guys. But now that you look back, it probably should be a Green Bay Kansas City Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, never mind the coaching decision not to go for it on 4th and goal, and they're down 8 and 2 minutes left. But I think if they could rewind and do it all over again, like you said, it would be different. I mean, Jordan Love even I was still surprised he was drafted as high as he was. Maybe he would have lasted one more round.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He might have. I mean, if they wanted
He
him
might
that
have.
bad, then they could have traded for him after the fact or something. I mean, it just seems like it's got to be like a love affair in the first round. Like at that point, if it's like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, like you have so many, you can choose from anybody, and you're gonna go for a
Yeah.
quarterback. But that that's the Packers. They sealed their fate. But the Buccaneers are going the first time a team, and we think about it. I'm not sure Paul is old enough to have witnessed every Super Bowl. But for the first time, a team in the 55th Super Bowl will host in their own stadium the Super Bowl. I mean, let's talk about that and just how crazy that is as well.
This is like almost illegal. It really shouldn't. They should just move it to Miami or something. But yeah, these things, they're set in stone. There's so much logistics going on.
Yeah.
It's like biggest show on earth.
Of course,
right?
yes.
It's bigger than maybe the World Cup final is bigger, but this is just. But it doesn't work entirely in their favor like it would have in a normal year. So,
No.
Brady, I think the biggest problem for him would have been playing in snow with a bunch of teammates who aren't used to it. Right? He's used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows how to deal with it. You throw it a certain way, maybe you take something off.
Yeah.
You don't ask them to run routes that require a lot of cuts. So yeah, now they're playing in Tampa Bay. They should be used to it. But that field, I'll tell you, man, you probably seen it. Like there've been a lot of guys slipping on that field.
Yeah, there have been.
Even without any rain or anything. So they have 2 weeks to work on that field, and they've had more than 2 weeks. But hopefully that field is in tip-top shape because we don't want to see a Super Bowl. Guys are like slipping. And kicks are happening.
Yeah.
Or maybe we do. I don't know.
No, we don't. We don't. We want to just see
Tyreek
Hill repeat his amazing performance in the first half of the last time the Chiefs.
They're gonna counter him. They're gonna counter him. Tampa Bay's DBs, they're good, but they're not great. I had Carlton Davis on one of my teams, and you put him up against most receivers, he does his job. You put him up against an elite guy like he did last week, and he can't stop. He'll just try and contain him.
Yeah.
So, but to see guys like Devontae Adams not in the Super Bowl, he just does that he kind of lifts off the ground a few inches and he does a juke and he's gone. Yeah. He's done that to every single corner. I mean, the only guy he probably can't do that to is his own teammate, right? What's his name? The quarterback, Alexander.
Yeah. Trent Alexander.
I would love to see them in practice.
Yeah.
Right there, you got the two best. The best in the position. So.
But that also, this Packers team, they this whole playoffs, both sides they've had to. We've had some pretty good games. I know the Packers and the Rams. We would have loved that game to be a little bit closer. But what do you think about the Goff situation right now?
Yeah. You know what? He didn't play bad. In those situations. It's a little bit like Trubisky in Chicago, right? Trubisky finished strong. Mm-hmm. His last 3-4 games, he actually played well. I mean, statistically at least, right? So, part of me is like, you know what? They already gave up the ranch and the kitchen sink and everything for Goff and all the guys they brought in, Jalen Ramsey. Mm-hmm. How do you undo it, right? How do you undo?
I will say though, it seemed like the Rams were in that position after the Super Bowl though, where like, we have Ndamukong and you got Marcus Peters, you got freaking Gurley, and the Rams were still able to, overachieve in my opinion this year, making it all the way to the NFC divisionals. But when you look at the roster and the money and also the salary cap supposed to go down, I believe as well. But Goff I could see them just trashing, seeing if they could get something for him. Maybe the Texans will take Goff, and who will we give for him? We'll give him Hecker. Goff and Hecker for Deshaun Watson. Would you do that, Jay?
The issue is the size of that contract, right? It's even the Texans would have to be like, you know what? We'll just draft somebody and pay him a rookie contract.
No. I mean, but like if you look at Goff's numbers, but I hate to say it though, there are going to be still those execs who are in love with that prototypical size. Goff is the exact prototype of an NFL quarterback. So I mean, I think you'd be able to sell him on that. There might be like, Deshaun Watson, we don't want this scrambler guy anymore, and I'd be like, Rams will take him any day of the week. But when you look at now that the NFC side is set, obviously we'll go to the AFC and talk about the Chiefs. But there's a chance, I think, for me, having been there in Kansas City for the divisional and then was there for the AFC Championship, I watching this team live, there is almost like a switch. I feel like that this team can and switch on, and not very few teams I think in the history of football could do something like that in the history of the NFL. But am I just really high on the Chiefs because I'm a fan, or what are you thinking, Paul Honda?
I think it was Mina Kimes or someone said that. Let's just admit it, man. This is the Chiefs, and below the Chiefs, you have to go down a few levels, a few tiers to really find a team that can beat them from the opening kickoff to the very last second. They what? It's been like 10, 11 games that they've won by less than 10 points.
Yeah.
And, and what I always notice, right, what Chiefs fans probably notice, I'm not a Chiefs fan, but I notice they always do better after they're down 9-0, 14-0.
They just spot a team 9-0 to start the AFC Championship, and then it's 21-9 within a quarter. I mean, 21 unanswered points, and it was so easy, too. It was just, working the middle of the field. Hitting. It was nothing crazy to Tyreek. You got that McCall Hardman around the end. I love that play. Great block. I mean, there wasn't that first block, right? That whole play is done.
I mean, that video that the NFL put on Instagram and everywhere else, where they don't even show him muffing the punt. They just show him coming out to the sideline, throwing his jacket over his head, and then right away, right, Kelsey's talking to him on the way there. Mahomes comes over. Hey, we're gonna make a play.
That's right.
We're gonna make a play.
That's right.
We are who we are. Don't worry about it. We've been everything. I mean, that was just the most pure kind of leadership and brotherhood, really, right? Because he knows he screwed up, and they're like, "You better not let that stop you because you're about to make some plays."
Of course.
Let's get to it. And then he just needed a couple seconds.
He did.
Drink some water and just let's move on. Don't dwell on it. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
that
is. I'm glad you brought that moment.
Living proof that everything that NFL executives believed about the 70s, 80s, 90s, Warren Moon with Houston, Jim Kelly with Buffalo, June Jones when he was with the Houston Ramblers, and he came into the league with the Falcons. He returned to the league. The idea that the spread offense is not right for the NFL. Our linemen don't know how to block out of it. We're used to pro set, two backs, tight end, double tight end, whatever. And then now it's like, okay, we want to draft a guy who can block in this formation.
Yeah.
As opposed to, he's Remington Award and all this, but we don't want to draft him because he doesn't fit what we do. It's the NFL has actually been the last one to actually go, you know what, the stuff they're running on this JV team in Texas, let's take a look at what they got.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at what this small college, what they're doing with this, with the this direction plays and the pre-snap motion. I mean, everybody steals from each other, and eventually it came to the point where let's use everything. Let's not throw away the pro set.
Yeah.
Let's use everything. And so you got Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, the rest of that staff.
Yeah.
They've incorporated everything. So that's the thing to me that sets them not just half level or one level, but beyond that, because they're not proud.
Yeah.
They're not proud. They just want to make it work. And Mahomes, coming out of college, wasn't like a college, he was like a little bit wild when he was at Texas Tech. He wasn't the most accurate. He had a big gun, and he had a lot of cojones. So they saw
he was a gambler. He was like Colt Brennan. Yeah.
So, to me, Kansas City, and then, I mean, if Tampa Bay can stay within 10 points, that'll be nice, Tampa Bay's defense, they're good, but they're susceptible, right? People have run on them this year. And when the wheels come off, they all come off. It's not like they come off and they just fall apart at times.
Yeah.
So I think the timing with Brady and his receivers, what Arians is still asking to do sometimes is throw it into coverage, even though we're up 18, we don't need to do that. Oh, we're up 18, throw it anyway. So what? Well, if they do that against Kansas City, they'll get wiped out, right? So they got to be smart. They got to be willing to bring Scotty Miller across like Edelman used to do, like Wes Welker used to do. A little bit. But if they just stay stubborn and Arians is like, no, throw it deep, Mike will catch it, Mike Evans will out-jump everybody. No, he won't.
Yeah.
He'll out-jump them 50% of the time.
Yeah.
Do you want the other 50% turning into a turnover at the 40-yard line?
Exactly.
For Mahomes and his guys? No. So that's the only chance I think Tampa has. If they don't have to be super conservative. They just got to mix it up. A little bit like Kansas City.
Yeah.
And don't force it. Don't force it into, even if it's one-on-one. If he's not open and you don't need the points, just be smart. I'm kind of rooting for the Bucs because Brady's not that much younger than me. But
yep, true.
But man, the Chiefs. I mean, you were there, so you must have been like, this is like the third greatest moment of my life.
Oh, of course, it's up there. I mean, having 2020 being one of the hardest years, but still having the best sports moment of my life. Definitely sitting in that and standing there in Miami in that stadium when they announced it's been 50 years, and that was so cool to hear that and to feel the energy. But you mentioned a guy like Eric Bieniemy. I'm not gonna pick on the Detroit Lions coaching situation, but it just seems strange that he didn't get a job this year. Would you agree with that?
We're gonna talk about systemic racism, right? The NFL, like I said, it was 1970 something, and high schools and colleges were using Miles Davis's run and shoot or versions of it that they have in New Mexico, Texas, Washington State, Oregon, whatever. And they've been resistant to it for all those years. Just a simple concept on offense, right? Yeah. No, we can't do that. The racism thing is so embedded, right, that it doesn't even feel like racism.
Yeah.
It's just, I know a guy who knows a guy, and he would probably help us out. He's a young guy, he coaches at this high school, and it comes down to relationships, right? So people want to say, you can't help it, right? If you're a white guy, your relationships tend to be other white guys, and you're black. I think it's 2021, right? So the fact that the NFL had to make it mandatory that you bring in a person of color for an interview, and they still struggle to do that is it's almost, I think most of us are speechless about something like that.
Yeah.
Especially in Hawaii. I mean, if you're a white guy coaching in Hawaii or a brown guy or a yellow guy, it doesn't even matter. Yeah. We all coach against each other. We all do sport games where coaches are not white or whatever. It's irrelevant in Hawaii.
Of course.
But in the NFL, it seems like whether it's by on purpose or not, it's just something's there.
Yeah.
Something's there. Eric Bieniemy can't get an interview until Deshaun Watson makes some noise. But you know what? It is what it is, right? And in Eric's position, I guarantee you somebody in his family said, you know what, Eric? They didn't want you. You're better off not there. You go there, you probably get an ulcer trying to work for that organization.
Yeah, of course.
And it's not even that the owner is like that himself, but it's already been there. Bill O'Brien was there, and he traded DeAndre Hopkins for a running back who was okay. It's like he just emptied it all out. And if you want to fire me, I don't care. And he got fired.
Yeah.
And then now they're left with the wreckage, right? And I don't know, how do you unwind not just 30 years of this with one franchise, but centuries, right? Going back to the beginning of colonization. So it's just way too much to unpack. But I don't know. I would hire him.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Even before we even unpack that part of it, let's just look at straight up at resume. Because if we're gonna look at success, Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator, because Raiders offensive coordinator, they didn't even go to the Super Bowl. They're getting hired for head coaching jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just obvious. And
Art Shell was their coach for a long time too.
True.
Yeah. So they've always been progressive.
Oh yeah, and I mean they have their CEO is a woman at the Raiders.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about the Raiders. It's just the fact that it's just anybody in the NFL. You're definitely way more scrutinized, right, when you're a person of color for sure. But I think the NFL is coming along. It's nice to see for a full-time black female assistant. Yeah. So the NFL is making, strides in other ways.
They made improvements. We've seen it, and social media, they made sure that we see it, right?
No, for sure.
It's not just the NFL tooting its own horn, but we'll see,
Yeah, I'm happy with changes, the NFL with the progress. I'm not happy. Yeah, I think they could move faster.
Well, you bring up, Eric Bieniemy, and it's like, your neighbors across the street are always fighting. And all of a sudden, some inappropriate stuff gets yelled, and it's like, it's their house, right?
Yeah.
Call the cops, file a complaint on disturbing the peace or whatever it is. It's still their house. They're trying their best, they're married to each other. There are children involved. The husband comes home drunk and throws bottles all over the street. The wife, came out one night with a knife and was going after him. You don't want them to break up. You want them to work it out. So whatever, a guy like me says here, sitting on his lanai in Honolulu, I just hope they move this along a little bit quicker, because the enemy is fantastic, and for him to stick with the Chiefs all these years means he's happy there.
Yeah.
He could have gone to a number of colleges, right? But he likes where he is. So I hope he's got peace of mind, right? It's not his fault. I just hope he has peace of mind. And the NFL, stop breaking bottles, do the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, we know. I mean, we've already moved into an era where we can verbalize these things more. This is like overt forms of racism at this point. It's not even like microaggression. But at this point, we did get through a successful season. We have a great Super Bowl, great matchup. I mean, the NFL always makes it work out. It's always a great story. But it doesn't always work out for fantasy users as well. Like this year, we're talking about fantasy. I had the highest point total in my league, by far the highest.
How did you do?
I had the highest. Let's start with I had the highest point total in the league and still finished seventh out of 10th. No, overall points, which show the strength of my roster.
Was your format head-to-head or points?
No, it was head-to-head. So all you gotta do is show up against me every week, I guess, and enough guys showed up at the right moments. So it is annoying because I didn't even have Christian McCaffrey, who was my number one overall pick most of the year, and I still, if I had him, I would have destroyed everybody. No, had I had him, I would have been undefeated. 7th place, and I scored the most points. I don't understand fantasy sometimes.
Let me ask you, what pick did you have in the draft?
First.
So everybody I know, if I can remember, I was in 4 leagues. I think he went first in every single one.
Yeah, I mean he's an automatic. I mean it's an obvious one.
So the next draft is going to come along pretty soon, right? In July or August or September, right? Early September. Mm-hmm. If you get the first pick again, are you just going to assume you just throw this year out, or do you are you like me and you think this is the beginning of more injuries for him? You only can take so many hits. I'm not taking him number 1.
It's hard because Christian McCaffrey. I mean, I think he's taken a bunch of. I would still take him, honestly. I mean, like, who else?
Really?
I mean, like, who? I feel like the same Saquon could get hurt. Kamara got hurt. I mean, anybody can get hurt. And then those are the other guys. So who would you take then, number 1 overall?
I rarely get the number 1. One year I took Brady, and that was the year he tore his ACL. I was effed after that, man. I would probably. I used to not want any wide receivers in the first round ever, but this was the year that showed me that the people who really gamble on wide receivers, they can really succeed. We had in our kids, our Thunder kids, our basketball kids, we had our own fantasy league, and one of the general managers was a 6th grade girl named Mickey. Mm-hmm. She's like a scholar at her school, and she's a really good athlete, little girl, and she almost won it. And like all her best players were receivers. It was like it was like a 3-quarterback league, right?
Okay. Yeah.
2 were flexes and 1.
Yeah.
And she didn't go for the quarterbacks. She went mostly with receivers, like top to bottom. She had like 5 guys who are probably going to make the Hall of Fame, all receivers. Wow. And I'm like, well, they're going to get hurt, or the quarterback's going to get hurt, right? And they're going to have like 1 reception like a week for like 3 weeks until their quarterback. That kind of scenario was in my head. She was right. I was wrong because I had Dak. I took Dak, and he got hurt, and I lost 3 straight. So I kind of would lean toward Kamara, catches a lot of passes.
Okay.
Or a receiver, maybe.
Really? Wow. Yeah. I just am not a receiver. It's just the volume.
But you can get a good running back.
It's just the volume. Yeah, you could. I got James Robinson this year. Obviously, no one knew who he was, but I got him in like the 4th round.
Did you draft him, or did you pick him up?
I drafted him.
Woo.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm a genius or anything, but
yeah, you're a genius.
You just know that the volume. I mean, some teams, it's just the volume. The Jags are gonna. They have nothing else.
They run block better than everybody expected.
Yeah.
It wasn't just he was a stud with the ball, and he's only like 5'9", right?
I know, yeah, and we know these free agent guys.
Better than we all thought.
Yeah. We know them well. Alex Green, all these guys that came from Hawaii that made impacts in the NFL at the running back position, and James Fenderson. I think James Fenderson was he also liked my photo this day today. So shout out James Fenderson because I know he was big on the Saints, obviously his old team. But this year has just been a great year. I just thank you so much, Paul. I know you have to get to your next interview, but I appreciate every time you come on here.
Take care of yourself. Stay safe, man. Stay safe.
Mahalo. We'll talk to you again soon, Paul. Take care. Aloha. I was literally going to stand up. I was like, I'm going to stretch my legs real quick. Let me make sure my audio was good. But I got to watch the interview again myself because okay, my audio is good. You can hear my delay. I got to watch that again from Paul Honda. He's always a great interview. He's somebody that's really passionate. Like I said, and I always learn a lot. So incredible that I get to have Paul again on my show. I hope I can have him more often. He's a really busy guy. Like I said, he's always helping out in the community, and he's community first. So that's the thing I like about him. Well, now we're going to talk about the Super Bowl, and nothing really lights me up like the Super Bowl because it's so fun. And for me, like I said, fun is a major requirement and criterion of, every tour that I put together, every tour that I lead, because that's what you take away the most from it. You know what I'm going to talk about the money thing straight off the bat because it's an expensive game, okay? I'll tell you what tickets went for last year, put it that way. On the day of the game, to get in, it was about $7,000 to get into the stadium. Maybe $6,000 if you're good. On the day of entering the game. So, it's already way over that. Not to say it'll change, but this is a crazy market. And that's the only time I want to talk about numbers. Because if you really want to come with me, take this email down, info@hisportsfans.com. Email me, knowing that the ticket market is crazy, and knowing that if you still really want to go, which I've gone to 5 of the last 6, like I said, and I don't regret a single one. Those are memories that are burned in my skull forever that I will always cherish and that I will always lean on for inspiration and for happiness and joy, because that's like the ultimate expression of what I like to do is going to these Super Bowl tours and not just getting into the game. I mean, the game is amazing on its own, but I have created tour packages that include the room, the board, the food even. I'm going to talk about that. And one thing that I love to do every year is the NFL experience. And I believe it's still happening this year as well, so that'll be a part of the tour. The NFL experience is kind of like a Disneyland, I'll say, for adults. And kids, too. Of course, for kids, too. For kids and adults who are kids. And me, who is both. And it's like the 50th State Fair, right? It's like, man, you go to Aloha Stadium and you're like, oh, it's the same rides every year. But like some people are just like really into it. And I love 50th State Fair too. Not as much as the NFL experience. But the NFL experience is similar. It's like a lot of the same booths, a lot of the same activities. But the activities are so fun that I like doing them over again. Like standing up on the stage and acting like I'm a draft pick and then get to hold the jersey. Or doing like, you get to go to this, interactive. A lot of things are interactive or computer generated. You can do like a bust of your face, like a Hall of Fame bust. So little things like that are really cool and, things that I look forward to every year. Of course, there are like passing challenges and running, but you know that you're an adult when you should be warming up for sure. I don't know, I get my arm warmed up before I get in line, but to try and throw those, you can throw it like targets. You can do all these like little skill things too, so that's really fun. But one thing I love about the NFL experience too, you get to see the trophy up close. So that's where a lot of people take a picture with the trophy, the exact trophy that's going to be given out in the game. So you can take a picture with it first, which is cool before it's handed out. And there's a bunch of other little places that, companies will sponsor booths, and some of them will bring in players for autographs, and that's where I got to see Aaron Donald, whom I love. So yeah, I'm always gonna have love for my Rams and Aaron Donald. But yes, they're on my other team. People always ask, what's even worse than or confusing? No, this is worse. It's confusing, right? If you see, because I do love the Rams. They're an LA team. They're the Hawaii sports fans team of the NFL. I'm Wayne Coito, so I'm talking about the personal me. Maybe that's the difference. Hawaii sports fans is committed to this, SoFi and building it up and making the best experiences that you can have. But also, we're gonna have trips to Kansas City because we're gonna have Wayne exclusive tours to Kansas City as well. So, like I said, this is all an expression of myself. But if you see this pictures of Super Bowl 49, I was wearing Seahawks jersey. Oh. So maybe I was the I was the bachi because I was wearing Seahawks jersey, but I was like, I cannot cheer for Patriots, and because of course you couldn't because Patriots, and I had just been at the NFC Championship, like I talked about earlier in the show. I was there in Seattle in 2013 championship, 2014 championship, so I was like, I kind of feel like I'm partial to Seattle right now. This was before the Rams moved to LA, because when the Rams moved to LA, that's when I started. That Rams were just a 8-8 normal middle of the ground team from the NFC, and coming to LA and building something and to be a part of that. I wanted to be a part of that, so I got season tickets, and I think Hawaii sports fans will now have entrance into SoFi and some of the best seats, and that's because of also me just wanting to be there at the games and wanting to share that experience. And all the stadiums bring different experiences, and that's the great thing about the Super Bowl as well, because it's always in a really crazy, cool stadium. But the NFL experience is really great, so we'll do that. We're gonna also have some great food. If you just saw next to me that empanada. So I talked about this on a post today. Cultural experiences are really important to me. Wherever we go to the Super Bowl city, and wherever I go personally as Wayne Coito, I eat local wherever I go. Like, I only want to eat the food here, and that's hard sometimes. If you try to limit your meat and dairy intake, and you go to, like, say, I don't know, Wisconsin, and then you're like, okay, this is all I'm eating, and it's like squeaky cheese curds all the time. But you gotta do what you gotta do when you're in that place. If you're in Wisconsin too, but you should always bring probiotics along with you. Just a pro tip right there. That empanada, I love empanada. It's one of my favorite foods. So it was amazing to go to Miami, Coito, and Cuban. Cubano Spanish is very difficult to understand too, so I was very intimidated. But those are the kind of things I love to do because they're a part of the game as well. That experience of going to Atlanta, amazing stadium, Super Bowl 53. Not a great game, unfortunately, for the Rams. Patriots won on the Super Bowl, but to be there was amazing in that stadium and looking at the roof and seeing it like close, like the lens on a camera. I mean, that Mercedes-Benz Stadium is so cool in Atlanta and so different, and that's something that's so cool. Hawaii fans will remember going to the Sugar Bowl and just walking into that Superdome and thinking like, wow. I remember when I walked in the Superdome, I was like, ho, ho, ho. Like, wow, this is not Aloha Stadium, And now that I've gone to so many amazing stadiums across the planet, I mean, for those who went to Australia, right, and went to see UH play in Sydney, that stadium was like, oh gosh, this stadium's huge. And it's just like, wow, these places and facilities are, there's just a myriad of them all over. And the architects, they share a lot of the same similarities, but you see creative types really push what they see to architecturally what they can push their imagination to go, and places that will be for fans an experience outside of the game itself. And that's what I talk about, outside of the game. We're going to the game, but the focus is not just the game. The focus is our experience of being there. So whether the game is, for me, being a Chiefs fan, being also my other team being the Rams, second team, I guess, or Hawaii sports fans team. So I have interest there. They got to go to 53. So it was cool seeing the Rams play there, but it was obviously a terrible game for the Rams. I mean, not scoring a touchdown in the Super Bowl is just sad. But, I think the Rams had a great season this year, and I'm excited about where the Rams are going and the Chiefs. And I can tell you, when the Chiefs did play the Rams, and it was the best game ever for the Rams, one of the best games in the history of the NFL on Monday Night Football for sure. Just a huge shootout with the scores in the 50s. It was the worst game because I couldn't cheer for the Rams. That was the one game I couldn't cheer for the Rams because they were playing the Chiefs, and that game was amazing, except when Aaron Donald hit Mahomes. Like, don't hit Mahomes. But that's what happens when you just love football so much, and things like that happen. But my heart is big enough. But still, I want to see this Chiefs. I would love to see a dynasty here, and I'm excited for that. But enough of what I want to see. What we all want to see is a great game and a memory. And all of those games gave me great memories. Super Bowl 49, being there in Glendale, in Arizona. Obviously, that if you're a Seahawks fan, watching that interception is one of the worst things ever in your entire life, obviously. I mean, it would be for me. But it's like you snatched defeat out of the hands of victory, and not to belabor the point, but that was a moment, like a crazy moment in NFL history, like that moment, like whatever side you're on, like whoa, you were there and you witnessed it, and that was cool to be there for that. That was our first Super Bowl, so that's why I was like, this might be my only one, because it's so difficult to Super Bowls, and I've been committed to doing that, and that's something that I'm very proud of. Because it's so hard to go to these Super Bowls. It takes so much money, but also risk and desire and passion, and I always put it all out on the line when I do these. I'm not about just going, halfway. It's something that I love so much, and I experience just like a real like sense of pleasure, but also just like confidence and a knowledge that I'm doing exactly what I want to do right now. And it's like Super Bowl happens. That's the thing about football season that I love being a football fan too, right? Is that it's not like the whole year. It's not like I'm a hardcore football fan every day. I am every day of the year, but I don't have to worry about games and events all the time, right? Every game matters, but and I'm a huge fan of the NBA. Obviously, I talk about the NBA all the time, but I don't watch every regular season game of every team. Like, that's hard to do. But I've basically seen at least a bit of every regular season game of the NFL every year, because every game has something in it that's interesting, even if I just watch the highlights, But that's the difference. And football is one of those things. And with the culmination of it being at the Super Bowl and something that's so special and like that environment that's so different, that you're somewhere cool. I love this picture with Ninja Turtles. We went to Mall of America in Minnesota, and that was so fun. And I got to do roller coasters. The SpongeBob roller coaster was really fun, and we ate a lot of good food. Talking about Atlanta, our group, we went to Athens, Georgia, the home of the UGA of UGA dogs. Whole dog. I mean dogs. Sorry, I got my dogs wrong. But that was just a cool cultural experience. And we went to Chattanooga, Tennessee, went to Ruby Falls, and we ate catfish and other fish that I had actually never heard of before, and were probably caught in that murky stream right behind the restaurant. But still, it was a cultural experience. But bring the probiotics also, like I said. Because when you eat it regionally, sometimes the food, even if people come to Hawaii, even though we have great food, anywhere you go, right, it's different. But I love trying new things. I mean, I have a heavy curiosity. That's the one thing about me that really drives me, is my curiosity, right? I just want to try everything. I just want to see what it's like, and experience things, and thrills, and also things that people say that they're just going to do one day, and people never say they end up never doing it, And I hate to say, because a lot of people I know really want to go to the Super Bowl. You say, I'm going to go to the Super Bowl. I hate to tell you, like, price-wise, it's getting more expensive. I doubt that the price will ever go down. But yes, it's crazy. Some years are crazier than others, perhaps. And by crazy, I mean, like, more volatile, at least the prices. And that's something that is knowledge that I have, and that if you want to call and talk to me, info@hisportsfans.com. I want to be like when BJ Penn was like, go to bjpenn.com. But actually, go to hisportsfans.com. Don't go to bjpenn.com. I mean, you can, I guess. Shout out to BJ. But hisportsfans.com. Sign up for the mailing list. Or call me. I mean, give me your number. If you really want to talk, I'm down to do personal consultations as well. Because this is a huge game, and it takes serious buyers. It takes serious clients. And I was kidding with my sister on Instagram because she's like, because I put on my Instagram post like on the story. I was like, okay, if you are not serious, I'm never gonna DM me if you're serious. But if you're not serious, I'm never gonna DM you again. But I mean, because it's like, it's not hard to weed out people that go to the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, because if you're gonna have sticker shock, and I told my sister, she's like joking, and this is not offense to anybody, but she was like, I was like, yeah, if you're stressing about buying the iPhone 12, she's too expensive for you, bro. So that was just because, just to put things in perspective, and believe me, I am not a rich person. Might be a shocker to people. This might be a huge shocker to people, but I'm literally not a rich. I'm not even average, really, in a lot of ways. Um, I live with my life with passion. Unfortunately, we live in a capitalist society, so you can't like trade a bunch of, I don't know, like pigs or hogs or whatever, cattle for a ticket. Like, you need to get money and then translate that into a ticket. And in this world, it's extremely difficult. I get it, especially now, to have income and revenue stream and at the same time buy this game. But that's just the way it is. The NFL, I mean, the way that the market works, especially in the year with COVID protocols and, just less seats available. Seats are a higher commodity, a hotter commodity. So we're going to see prices that are crazy. But the market will settle. Where it will settle, I don't know. I can say personally. But I'm willing myself to take all the risk off your hands. And I've done this for 5 years. And that's the biggest thing, too. I take the risk off your hands. Me, normal Wayne, who's not rich, and Hawaii sports fans take the risk for you. Like, that's pretty good, I'd say, right? Because that's the kind of thing that makes this company different. And it's a company because I don't want to be shady and not be legal. So everything is legal, and it has been since February of 2012, and now we're heading to February of 2021. I'm going to have my 10-year anniversary of Hawaii Sports Fans next year, and it's been an incredible run, and it's driven me close to misery and sadness and sulkiness and poverty, but it also has lifted me to places and edified me in ways that I never could have experienced had I not pursued what I wanted to do. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you just have to know that this is what you want to do. Yes, it's a lot of money. A lot of money. And at the same time, yes, it can be the best purchase of your life. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. I didn't get to see my team play all the time, right? That first Super Bowl, that Seahawks Patriots game, which was the cheapest Super Bowl and ended up being the most expensive by the game time. You imagine walking across the street with thousands of dollars dangling from your neck, and I'm trying to huddle people. And that's the craziness of this. It's not like just, it's like sometimes just having your own suite. You imagine at a normal game, just like renting your own suite, like that level, basically. Going to the NFL game and just getting into the stadium, going to the Super Bowl. But, I make it happen. And I want to make it as seamless for people as possible. I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to feel like they don't have to worry. And I take that worry on. I've taken the stress on. I've taken getting robbed, getting frauded on, getting scammed, and it happens. They are really good, and things now that the NFL is going completely digital, it's going to open up for more. But that's why certain channels are the most safest, and I know the ones that are. And they're available to public as well, but I also have people that I use, but it takes time to make relationships, and it takes years of growth and making mistakes, or for me, lessons. I don't feel like I make mistakes. I don't regret anything that I do, because everything that happens is a lesson. And I know for a fact that I've been blessed in so many ways and given so many opportunities because I was willing to take the risks when it was time. I was willing to stick myself out there. I was willing to put in the work, even though no one was watching. And sometimes people don't get it, and that's another part, right? Something I live with personally as Wayne is the fear of being misunderstood all the time, because I'm all about being rational. I'm an economist. That's one of my bachelor's degrees, and it's about efficiency. It's about rational. It's about human behavior. But some humans wouldn't behave like me, right? Some humans wouldn't get it because the cost alone, right? If you gauge what you do by the amount of money you spend, perhaps you might find yourself um, never doing what you ever want to do because it'll never meet the price that you expect it to be. And with the Super Bowl, it's an enormous price, you know, and I don't want to. I think it's unfair to the game itself to be like comparing like I could buy this, which you could buy a bunch of different things, but are you, and would you, and why would you? But the Super Bowl is something that you always want to go to. I think it's a no-brainer to me. You're committed to going to one, maybe if your team is in it this year. If your team is in it in particular, I mean Brady versus Mahomes. It's a huge game. People spend money on things like weddings and receptions and big money on stuff like that they take a lot of time. And this is not a judgment on those things at all. I'm just saying we all make choices, right? People buy expensive paintings that they put on the wall. Even though they might not be art connoisseurs, but I gotta just buy paintings and act or whatever. But even so, or having a dog, which dogs are really expensive as well. Like I wouldn't just get a dog. There's so many people that just like get dogs and it's like, oh, that's like a kid. Like you gotta feed it, and they could get cancer and stuff. That's terrible, but that's like legit. Oh gosh, my bobblehead. That legit could happen. I mean, things. We all have to spend money on crazy things sometimes. Sometimes it's stuff that we didn't see happening, but here's a chance to take charge and spend money on something that you want to do. So the Super Bowl is definitely going to be one that will be different than years prior, but I anticipate a lot of the similar events. And this year as well, I'm throwing in an NBA game too. So we're going to Orlando to watch the Magic. So I think this would be fun. Actually, and I'm down to also take tours to people that just want to go to the Super Bowl city. It might be different. Like I'm saying, it's COVID, and usually the best parts about the Super Bowl weekend, like the NFL experience, which we do, but also so many parties like Thursday, Friday. Thursday in Atlanta, I went to an amazing concert. If you like Southern hip hop, Migos, that Lil Baby, my favorite, he was there. We were singing with Little John from the window. Like it was amazing. I mean, just so many 21, Gucci, everybody. There's a lot of Jermaine Dupri even. But those kind of things only happen in certain cities when you go, and it's like, that's the best part of going to some of these places. Is that it's like regional, and it's an experience that can only happen in that city. Minnesota was a weird one, obviously, going there. That was crazy. But I did get to go to Prince's studio, Paisley Park, and it was so cool. And got to learn a lot about him, and it inspired me in so many ways personally. Everywhere I go, I'm so inspired by Wayne, Wayne the artist, Wayne, the adventurer, the explorer. I'm always inspired by so many things that I do. And that's what I love about sports so much. And traveling is the travel aspect is no different and even more enhanced than normally traveling to somewhere, right? If I go to Paris, it's amazing. I love Paris, but when I get to go to Paris and go to the French Open, man, that's amazing. When I go to Melbourne, Australia, and go to the Australian Open, when I get to go to Wimbledon, when I get to go to Australia and see Sydney and get to see UH play there, right? It's like it's you can't lose, And like I said, you never go unless you take that step. So, like I said, send me email. You got my number. You can text me even. Text me about it. Because I think this is really going to be a fun game. I'm really excited for it. I plan on being there, and I plan on being inside as well. Hawaii sports fans, the package will be done as safe as possible. Obviously, the company is not liable because this is a time of a pandemic. So you take all the precautions, know what you're getting into. And to be honest, what you're getting into, I would say mostly when you're traveling, being on a plane is not as scary. I've been on a plane for a long time. They use a lot of filters. I trust the science around filters and people wearing masks on a plane. And also, I haven't taken any super long. Like going from Hawaii to the mainland, yeah, it's 5 hours, or going across long haul. There's always going to be risk involved, but I think the risk is minimal if you're wearing a mask the whole time, particularly. Get an N95 mask if you're really nervous, But contacting the virus requires like a lot of close proximity. So it's hard to just like get the virus, somehow and not know. Like you kind of have to know who you got it from. It's all about the proximity. I'm gonna let you folks take care of that. I can help you. I can consult with purchasing tickets so that it's the best way for you to come into town and for me to get you and retrieve you and take you with us. I plan on getting like a bigger van, so even for a small group we can spread out and keep the windows open. And it's Florida, so things are a little bit different, but we also want to be as safe as possible as well, and we also want to adapt to the times, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just adapting, right? I'm just adapting to whatever is thrown my way, because that's how I live my life day to day. I don't have to get ready, right? If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, and I stay ready all the time, man. I always stay ready for this game, the Super Bowl, my favorite game of the year. From a kid, watching it on TV and always wanting to go. It's been amazing to be able to be in that structure. And I can remember walking into 49 and to 50. So 51, I went to Houston, but I didn't have a group, and I ended up not going in. And actually, I was in the air, ironically, during the end of the fourth quarter and into overtime. So that was a Patriots comeback that I didn't have to witness myself personally, which was kind of nice because that probably would have been annoying again to see the Patriots win another one, which I can imagine the Chiefs would be annoying to see the Chiefs win again. But sorry about it. I don't want to see a dynasty. It feels different. Like I said, it's edifying. It's a feeling that you made it to a place like going to Mecca if you're an NFL football fan. If it seems sacrilegious, I'm just making examples. What I'm saying is, when you devote your time, and I think about this all the time to people too, like 55. I can remember, consciously watching NFL games since 1989, so I was 6 years old, and being a Chiefs fan, and remembering like the Super Bowls, and probably the first Super Bowl I remember was a wide right game that I can vividly remember watching. But it's like, if I've been watching, for 32 Super Bowls, like that's a long time to watch one show, a TV show, right? I did a part on Days of Our Lives, and I got to be in their book where they write all the characters that ever work on that show, and they tell you to write your name in the book if you have a principal role in the show. And it was cool. And I was like, whoa, I'm a part of this book. 50 seasons, like, holy cow, it's like on the 52nd season. Like, that's crazy. But at the same time, when you look at sports, it's pretty cool, too, that this tradition is not only continuing, but getting bigger. And I think the NFL and NBA, yes, viewership might be different or down, or things might be politicized, but this football, it's entertainment at the end of the day. And it's entertaining for a variety of reasons. And I bring this up all the time, right? It's a cultural phenomenon that we all have some tie to, whether we have a family or friend that played or coached, or whether we watch and are a fan, or whether we read a section completely devoted to it, sports. It's a part of the fabric of our lives. So I just really am appreciative of the opportunities that I've had. I'm grateful for all of those, and I know that I've had to take so many risks and sacrifices, but the timing needed to be right, and I needed to myself be ready to take on hits, and financial hits, emotional hits from, second guessing. But you don't second guess what you love. You don't second guess what you have a passion for. You don't second guess what can get you out of bed. And I just remember waking up. I flash back to waking up in Georgia and being like, I'm going to Super Bowl today, or waking up in Taylor's Falls, Minnesota, and being like, I'm going to the Super Bowl today. And it's so cold, because it's such a cool event. And I hope you all are able to make it. Info@hisportsfans.com. If you're serious about going, send me an email. If you got my number, text me, and or send me a message. You guys know how to get a hold of me. Let's talk about this, and let's go to the Super Bowl, guys. Take care. Aloha.